Deep in a dark Tokyo alley, a group of guys circles up and beats down on someone, tossing the kid hard, sending all his stuff flying across the ground. One of them laughs, joking that a punching bag would put up a better fight, while another records the whole thing. That right there is our main guy, 16-year-old Mogami Tendo, lying on the floor all bruised up. Frustrated, he curses his rotten luck for running into this kind of trash. Glancing down at him, one of the bullies gets second thoughts and suggests they back off. But the leaf scumbag just mocks his buddy right until the guy tries to remind him exactly who our boy's brother is. Suddenly, all three of them hear footsteps approaching and snap their heads back. Even the kid on the ground turns round, completely stunned by who just showed up. Way down at the end of the alley, a figure in a white coat strides forward. He's this young dude rocking an eye patch and white hair, giving off some seriously heavy pressure. And the same bully who was just talking points right at him, recognizing the genius, Mogami brother, Japan's strongest, right there in the flesh. Meet Reiji, a national conqueror at just 16, who casually orders the punks to get lost with absolute authority. Panicking, one of the guys yells out that they're done for. Yet the main clown tries keeping his tough guy act, sweating buckets while claiming they're safe. Cold as ice, Reiji ignores the whole group and walks right past them without a single glance, stopping dead in his tracks right in front of his brother, who's still on the floor. Our guy looks up and calls out to him, only to get hit with a gaze full of pure disgust. Without showing a shred of emotion, Reiji turns his back and just mutters, "Pathetic." Walking away, he rubs salt in the wound, asking if he can't even find the guts to fight back while getting beat down. The bully cheers, pretty much confirming the rumor that Reiji hates his brother for ruining his perfect image. Defeated, our boy swallows hard, while the guys keep making fun of him getting left behind. Out of nowhere, the scumbag stares in awe, pointing out that even the genius's squad is built different. Reiji is shown strolling alongside this blue-haired officer with a sword strapped to her waist. Looking back, she seems to sneak a quick glance toward the alleyway. While he tries guessing who she is, the bullies go right back to trashing him over the massive gap between the twins. Left alone in the dirt, our hero tries recalling when their bond broke, though he knows the exact day it happened. A flashback drags his memory right back to a sunset from years ago, thinking about when he was just a little kid running around free, believing he could take on the world. Back in the day, the young dude wasn't afraid of a single thing and always had a smile on his face. But all that blind confidence went straight down the drain 5 years ago when a purple gate suddenly popped up during a family walk. Zooming in on his little, shocked face, he drops to the ground in pure panic. Creepy shadows spread like cracks, swallowing the street right out from under his feet as he tries running away. Drenched in tears, absolute terror completely takes over the young boy. That dungeon sucked his entire family right into the pitch-black darkness. Sprawled on the concrete, his brother reaches a hand out, practically begging for help, until he's the only one left sitting in that void, having lost everyone he loved. Outside the zone, police cruisers and choppers are swarming the gate. Right after that, the scene shifts over to a hospital waiting room. Waiting by the front desk, our guy is sitting next to some government official. Then he suddenly locks his eyes onto the TV screen. The news anchor drops the heavy update out of the whole dungeon incident. Only Reiji made it back out, drowning in guilt. He feels like he did absolutely nothing to help out. Even worse, he admits to himself that he just froze up, shaking and crying his eyes out, lacking the guts to even reach his hand out for the brother who was begging to be saved. Squeezing his eyes shut, the heavy trauma of that day hits him all over again. That was the exact moment their paths split for good. Becoming the youngest ever to clear a dungeon, Reiji turned into a superstar and is now Japan's #1 conqueror. Meanwhile, our boy just feels like dead weight, completely stuck in place. Walking past a massive billboard of his brother, he overhears people gossiping and calling him the genius's stain. He just gulps down the pain and keeps moving forward, staring at the ground. Who even knows who came up with that nickname, but honestly, he felt it fit him perfectly. The one and only flaw for the great Mogami Reiji was his total failure of a brother, meeting Tendo himself. Snapping back to reality, a solid kick from the scumbag lands dead center. Dropping to his knees, the brutal beatdown just keeps going. Down on the pavement, our guy is convinced that Reiji's hatred stems from his cowardice back then. Grabbing him by the collar, the bully gets ready to completely body him some more. Feeling totally helpless, he wonders what a weakling like him could have even done differently. Clenching his fists, he gets hit with heavy frustration over still getting clowned by guys like this. Out of nowhere, the bullies freeze and stare in the same direction, wondering what on earth they're looking at. Kendo tilts his head up towards something massive that just spawned in the sky. The ominous glow of a purple gate reflects right in his pupils, leaving him wide-eyed. And that's where it gets crazy. A literal dungeon spawns right inside the alley, locking everyone in fear. Going on high alert, our boy can barely process what's happening. He's just standing face to face with the dungeon entrance, completely stunned. Right then, a drop of pitch-black sludge drips out of the gate, landing inches away from him. The creepy stuff starts spreading like a shadow, consuming the pavement below. Terrified, Tendo watches those shadows rush straight at him with zero hesitation. Scrambling to crawl backward, he realizes the dark stain is way too fast. Catching up to his leg, the shadow aggressively drags him inside without holding back. Losing his voice, he can barely even scream as he gets sucked straight down. Tumbling through some weird digital space, the bizarre area scans him, healing up his injuries and locking in his physical age. Watching this happen, his brain practically blue screens trying to make sense of the situation. Suddenly, the system locks in his registration as a brand new conqueror. Racking up the scan, he just keeps falling in total confusion until a notification suddenly pops up, officially welcoming him to the dungeon. With zero warning, a massive hole of blue light yanks him in for good. The crazy ride finally ends with him groaning as he crashes onto a solid stone floor. Rolling over to his side, he has no clue where he just landed. Sitting up super slowly, he tries to wrap his head around things, only to come face to face with this massive hall, packed with pillars and a bunch of people stuck in the exact same boat. And just like that, everything changed. It finally hits him that he's actually inside a dungeon. But there's something super weird going on with his actual eye. Rubbing his face, he figures he must be going crazy. Popping his eyes open again, he spots a neon blue glow flashing right from his own pupil. A glowing holographic crosshair locks dead center in his field of vision, displaying numbers ticking down. The visor looks exactly like some kind of lifetimer. Suddenly, he catches the sound of a few people freaking out in a panic, quickly realizing that the exact same squad of bullies is standing right there, completely terrified, making it pretty obvious they all got swallowed up by the same gate. Right then, our boy spots something off. Focusing his vision on one of the punks, he realizes he can actually read some of his stats. The interface flashes the guy's lifespan, 83 years left. Sitting there completely lost, his attention snaps when one of the scumbags points toward the back of the room. Whipping around real quick, Tendo gives it a curious look. Right in the dead center of the room, two crazy-looking altars spawn in, covered in glowing tech lines. His eyes instantly widen at the sight of them. Without even blinking, he gets up and marches straight toward the objects like he's totally hypnotized. Just then, a slot in one of the totems slides open right in front of him. A sword pops right out, leaving the kid highly intrigued. Staring at the two blades, his mind starts racing, wondering if he's actually in a dungeon. Is this gear? He thinks, reaching his hand out, but the scumbag cracks a smile, confirming his guess. Even brags about hearing how overpowered these beauties are. Shoving our boy aside, he tells him to get out of the way. Super arrogant, he grabs the weapon and claims it for himself. Tossed to the floor, our guy takes the hit. Suddenly, the bully freezes, confused by some weird sound. Looking up at the guy holding the other blade, Tendo figures he's just talking to himself. The truth is, a voice inside our hero's head just identified the weapon as a vibroblade. Spooked, he thinks it's some directional audio, until the system drops a bomb. The sword costs 30 years of his life. His brain flat out blue screens trying to process that heavy price tag. Meanwhile, the punk is screaming at the voice to stop stalling and hand over the sword. Caught off guard, our boy's vision locks onto one specific detail. That floating counter above the bully's head reads 83 years. In the blink of an eye, the number nosedives straight to 53. Watching it drop, Tendo realizes that's actually their life expectancy. Plus, the scumbag just paid 30 years of his life without even noticing, and he's still yelling about being the strongest now. Full of himself, he turns to his buddy and brags that he'll even surpass Reiji. And no one saw that coming. Something blitzes the bully, slicing his neck before he even finishes the sentence. Both his partner and our hero freeze in pure terror at the sight. The severed head sends crimson spraying everywhere. While the body drops, a creepy figure takes shape right behind it. Instantly, our boy's face twists into raw, unfiltered shock. That dark matter morphs into a monster, cornering the two survivors. Pushed to the edge of panic, Tendo recognizes the creature. He knows for a fact that thing is hostile. With zero time to react, our guy falls to the floor right in front of those things. The fallen bully's body actually starts turning to dust. Shocked, our hero watches the scene, barely believing his eyes. Floating right over the remains, the counter shows 29 years. Then the display glitches out, and the number drops straight to 0. If he had any doubts left, now he knows for sure that thing tracks their lifespans, while the rest of the punks just book it. Without hesitation, the monsters lunge forward. Terrified, our boy watches these enemies vault right over him to hunt down the others. Whipping his head around, he finds one of those freaks right on his tail. The threat glares at him, giving off this pink glow with red-stained claws. It's the exact same beast that just bodied the bully. Realizing things are looking grim, he scrambles away to save his own skin. Suddenly, something clicks in his head. Fueled by pure panic, he didn't even notice he was still gripping that sword. The panel instantly charges him the 30 years for the blade, officially calling it a claymore. Updating on the spot, the visor leaves our young guy with only 39 years left to live. He screams in despair with only one thought crossing his mind: I'm screwed. Furious, he curses his own impulse and the lack of a simple confirmation screen, but his frantic escape leads straight into a dead end. Backed into a corner, he turns his head in sheer terror. The monster closes the distance in a flash. He figures that if the sting is actually a weapon, he should be able to take down the creature, gripping the handle for dear life. And with nowhere left to run, he makes his choice. Putting everything on the line, he tries to attack the enemy. Yet the beast just leaps up, dodging his strike like it's nothing. His eyes go wide the second he realizes the attack missed. Striking from above, the enemy dives at him before he can even blink. The claws land a direct hit on his leg, tearing through tissue in one brutal slash. An agonizing scream echoes through the hall as pain shoots across his entire body. Unable to stay standing, he collapses to the floor, clutching his bloody leg. Shaking from the pain, he can only let out weak groans while the red stains the stone. In a complete panic, our guy curses this whole messed up situation. The enemy stares him down with crimson claws, ready to finish the job. Feeling fully frustrated, reality finally hits him hard. The harsh truth is, he feels like he's still the exact same loser, just someone who always gives up, even at the very end. And that's where it gets crazy before our boy can become a memory. Someone shows up and slices the monster like butter. It was none other than his brother, Reiji. Our hero just stares at him, super stunned and in total denial. With his back to Tendo, Reiji claims he was pretty generous for giving up his life so quietly, while still clutching that blade of his. Still in shock, our boy stays planted on the ground. The camera focuses right on his fist gripping the weapon, proving that deep down, he still wants to survive. Turning around, Reiji tells him that if he really lacks the will to live, then he should just go drop dead in some random ditch. Having zero things to say back, he lowers his head. But Reiji keeps pushing, saying that if he actually wants to live, even if the attempt itself kills him, our guy better stay right behind his back. With a dead serious look, he locks in the promise to get him out of there alive. Completely confused, Tendo can't figure out why he's being saved by someone who hates his guts. At that exact moment, our boy snaps his head back at the sound of someone screaming. Those two bullies were begging for help, seconds away from getting wiped out by the monsters. Spooked, he watches the whole chaotic scene unfold. Instantly, Reiji dashes straight toward them, stating that regardless of his personal feelings, he puts his life on the line to protect civilians, because that is exactly what being a national conqueror is all about. Watching his brother's back as he sprints off to save those two pieces of trash, he tells himself he's never gonna forget this sight for the rest of his life. Sprawled on the floor, all the pain and fear just fade away, simply burning right into his memory. Those brilliant battle movements. To our main guy, that was the back of his hero, which would later push him to become a conqueror, all on his own. Tendo flashes a look of pure, undivided admiration for the guy risking his own life to save him, his brother. The scene cuts over to Berlin, explaining that the first gate spawned into the world 38 years ago. Nobody had a clue where it came from, how it worked, or what the point of it even was. Shortly after, a massive wave of these dungeons popped up all over the globe. Brazil itself was even gifted its very own danger zone. Multiple institutions studied the phenomenon, figuring out only three main things. First off, the only exit is hidden deep inside the dungeon. And the second is that unless the dungeon gets cleared, eventually, those creatures will break out into the human world. The third one is that weapons capable of taking down these beasts only exist inside. Those who risk their lives entering the dungeon are known as conquerors. Being guided by Reiji, our main guy mentions that these are the only three things he knows about dungeons. Hearing this, Reiji replies that it's pretty close, but there's more to it. He explains that conqueror isn't a job, but rather anyone who steps foot in a dungeon, meaning everyone here just became one. Catching our boy completely off guard, the genius continues, saying the dungeon rewrites people's bodies, altering their biology. He even asks if he hasn't noticed the difference. Thinking for a second, the kid admits that, stopping to analyze it. He clearly remembers that weird voice scanning his body at the entrance. But there's another detail knocking at the door. His mind pulls up the interface with that blinking timer, marking 37 years left. The whole thing makes zero sense to him. Confused, Reiji turns his head, not quite following his train of thought. The kid freaks out seeing the time drop again, since it was exactly 39 before. At that moment, Reiji says he must have already figured out that it's their lifespan, mentioning that conquerors' injuries heal on their own by burning through that time. Asking about his busted leg, our guy peeks at his ripped pants and realizes that, oh yeah, he had taken a brutal hit from that creature. Astonished, he notices the wound closed up without him even feeling it. Completely healed, the leg is brand new, leaving only the blood-stained fabric behind. Our boy, amazed by this, points out how incredible conquerors really are. With a dead serious look, Reiji cuts his brother off, reminding him that if the counter hits 0, it's game over. Hearing that makes our young guy freeze on the spot. He warns that anyone who becomes a conqueror can kiss a normal passing goodbye. Instantly, the image of the bully turning to dust flashes right in his head hanging low. The reality of the actual danger finally sets in. Finishing his thought, Reiji states that severe injuries strain even more years until the account runs dry. Right then, a monster spies on their chat from behind a pillar. The creature just lurks in the shadows. Wrapping up the talk, Reiji raises his weapon to get back to action. Out of nowhere, a whole horde leaps from the dark and rushes straight at him. Filled with panic, the boy tries to scream his brother's name, Rei, but he just dives right into the middle of the horde like a blue flash. Joe, our guy finishes, completely dumbfounded. At an insane speed, his brother sliced up the entire mob in the blink of an eye. Stuck in place, Tendo can only let out a huh, while still amazed. Watching the massacre, he can't even wrap his head around how fast that was. Reiji then explains the upside of slicing up these creatures. By destroying their core, the system injects more years into the Conqueror's account. Our guy looks at a red sphere on the floor, asking if that's it. Quickly realizing how hard it is to hit a target with that kind of accuracy. Flashing an awkward smile, he's positive he could never pull off something like that. At that moment, his digital crosshair focuses and reveals Reiji's balance. The display shows a cracked 189 years. 189, spoofed kid yells out. Knowing this meant his brother had already taken down a ton of those things. Our main guy now rocks a sad look, but also one of pure admiration. He mentions that this must be how his brother has been fighting all this time. Reiji adds that if those with power don't protect the weak, they'll just drop dead in seconds. Absolutely defeated, he can only nod along, gripping the handle of his own sword. The group pushes deeper down the hallway. Pointing ahead, Reiji lets them know the exit is right up ahead. A few steps later, they run straight into a glowing purple gate. Pulsing with light, it confirms it's their escape route. The whole squad celebrates, super relieved that the nightmare is over. But Reiji cuts the party short, sticking his arm out to stop everyone. He then gets his blade ready, when suddenly one of those beasts comes flying down one of the halls. The monster crashes into the ground already dead, except instead of some other stronger creature, it's a person. It's Officer Yui Murasaki, another national conqueror, letting them know it's just her. Calling the girl Mizusaki, he recognizes his coworker, who returns the relief of seeing him in one piece. Asked about her situation, she says all the civilians she managed to save are right there, however, reporting that a lot of them had already been wiped out by the time she got there. Our guy acts surprised and lets out an ah. Pointing at her, he connects the dots on where he had seen the girl with his brother. With zero filter, he just drops the question, "Are you his girlfriend?" Both of them shut that down instantly. Reiji says she's just an employee, and she claps back offended, claiming she has good taste. Reiji finds the jab weird, but the officer plays it off like it's nothing specific. Next, Yui focuses on the kid, wanting to know who he is. Showing some reluctance, Reiji admits he's his brother. Our boy tries breaking the ice by forcing a little smile and attempts to greet her, but he gets instantly shut down when she calls him unpleasant to his face. The poor dude's face freezes in a cold sweat on the spot. It becomes obvious to him how similar they are in rudeness, while Reiji finds out the girl only took down 6 weak mobs. The vibe gets heavy since a kill count that low in a dungeon screams major trouble. Soon enough, Reiji orders Yui to evacuate the area with the group, warning them that he's gonna go look for another route. Eager to say something, our guy tries calling out to him, except the dude just turns his back and vanishes into the dark hallway. Standing right there in the middle, he mentions he couldn't even thank him for saving his life. Yui leads the way and says that as soon as they step through the gate, they'll be outside. Organizing the line, she focuses on the order, while Tendo is left hanging at the back. Out of nowhere, she spots our boy just standing there. She heads toward him, telling him not to just stand around. And this is where it gets good. Another gate suddenly spawns right in front of the one the squad was about to use. Yui's eyes go wide, gulping hard at that heavy pressure, quickly turning around to see what it was. Right in the middle of the portal, something shows off a monstrous blade for an arm. She tilts her head up, sensing the attack coming. Moving at an insane speed, the blade lunges toward Yui. Her weapon crosses up to block the strike, but the sheer impact of the hit shakes everything. Feeling the full weight of the blow, she is left speechless by all that raw strength. The beast's weapon is this bladed whip, connected straight to some kind of mini-gate. Suddenly, the creature gets all distorted and starts glitching out, revealing its face, face. The thing shows it was actually facing backward this entire time. Wasting no time, the monster attacks again, launching a super fast strike right at Yui. Caught totally off guard, our main guy has no clue what's going on. Landing a direct hit, the blast sends Yui flying straight into the far wall. Spooked, Tendo looks up just in time to see chunks of the ceiling caving in. What on earth just happened is exactly what's running through his head. Buried under the rubble, Yui looks like she's completely out of the fight. Still reeling from the shock, our boy just stands there, trying to process how that thing spawned right at the exit. Out of nowhere, something slices his face. Right behind him, the creature had already closed the distance without him even noticing. Drenching his fingers in crimson, he tries to cover up the open wound. At that exact moment, the system chimes in with an alert that his left eye just got slashed. He lets out a desperate, agonizing scream. Flashing 37 years on the timer, the panic kicks in hard, because the auto-heal triggers, dropping his balance down to 35. Standing tall, the elite boss raises its blade. It stares him down with that sinister purple gaze. Shifting its weight, the beast winds up for the next strike, bringing the attack down with everything it has against the defenseless kid. And that's where it gets crazy. Ragey pops up at the very last millisecond, locking in a block with his sword. Flat on the ground, our guy yells his brother's name in pure relief. Despite the throbbing pain, he can't tear his eyes away from the scene. Straining hard, Ragey tries to hold up against the ridiculous weight of that strike, only for his weapon to end up shattering into pieces. With zero effort, the elite boss's blade slices right through his arm, taking it completely off on the spot. Totally stunned and alarmed, Ragey realizes this thing just broke his claymore like it was nothing. Locking eyes with the elite boss, he swears he's never seen a humanoid type like this. From the other side, Ragey assesses the damage, sweating buckets. Right up ahead, a pile of defeated civilians makes the danger level painfully obvious. Gripping his own injured arm, he completely grits his teeth. Scanning the wrecked floor, he spots Yui totally out of commission. Pulling off his eye patch, Ragey states he'd rather not waste his lifespan in a place like this, ripping the patch right off his face, which apparently worked as some kind of limiter. His eyes light up in a bright red glow while sparks wrap around the blade. Panicking hard, Tendo points right at his brother's missing arm. Holding a steady gaze, Ragey snaps back that losing a limb means nothing to a conqueror. Our young boy is left speechless, trying to process exactly what that means. And then it hits him. Even with a missing arm, his brother is still planning to throw down. Shouting in despair, he points out the obvious fact that the guy's arm is literally gone. Spotting Regi's life counter-dropping massively, he freaks out, realizing he's burning a ton of time just to keep fighting. The timer plummets from 189 straight down to 156 years in a matter of seconds. But the genius, rocking a glowing red eye, says he can't afford to waste time and promises to end this in a flash, charging right at the monster who's already winding up an overhead strike, leaving our guy still stuck on the floor. A system panel pops up right then, announcing the activation of the Chronostasis eye. Fueled by this power, golden rings of light completely lock down the elite boss's movement. Taking full advantage of the opening, Reiji rushes the beast, who's now stuck moving in slow motion. Right then he switches his power off. Sliding right underneath the monster's strike, he lines himself up perfectly for a devastating counter. Then he unleashes a massive hit with his energy blade, striking dead center on the creature's chest. Except, to his total shock, the attack doesn't pack the punch he was expecting. Stepping back, Reiji creates some quick distance. The elite boss stays planted on the floor, looking like it didn't even feel that strike. Glowing intensely, the creature's core doesn't have a single scratch on it from the attack. Figuring out the opponent is way too tough, Reiji realizes he won't be able to shatter that core with just one hit. Getting back into stance with his sword raised and his wounded arm, he gears up for another try. Glaring at the towering beast, he admits this thing is on a whole different level compared to anything they face. The elite boss locks eyes right back at him. Right after that, the monster swings its bladed tentacle again, this time aiming straight for our boy still lying on the floor. Going on high alert, Reiji clocks the beast changing its target. Completely shocked, he sees that razor-sharp strike heading right toward his brother. So the genius triggers his Chronostasis eye at the very last second, launching himself forward, freezing the shadowy blade inches from Tendo's face, stopped dead in time by a ring of golden energy. Grabbing him by the jacket, Reiji just tosses our young guy like a rock skipping across a lake. Tumbling through the air, he can barely process what just went down, totally disoriented. Nailing a perfect landing, Reiji immediately spins back around to face the creature. Having turned off the Chronostasis eye, his focused gaze tracks every single move the enemy makes. While the skill's effect fades out, Reiji charges straight at the elite boss. The attack smashes into the ground with insane force, completely destroying the spot where our boy just was. Instantly, Reiji is already up in the monster's face, though it manages to block his strike. Pressing his blade against the enemies, Reiji taunts it, asking what the issue is and reminding the beast that he is the real opponent. From a distance, our guy watches the intense clash unfold between the two of them, totally lost and still catching his breath. He keeps wondering what on earth is going on. Bleeding from his face, he tries wrapping his head around the whole thing since it all happened way too fast. Up ahead, the battle rages on, with Reiji taking on the giant creature head-to-head. Except, all of a sudden, the enemy's arm freezes mid-air again, caught by Reiji's skill. Our boy's jaw practically hits the floor, noticing that the beast stopped dead in its tracks again, almost like it was pinned to the sky. Thrashing around, the creature struggles against Reiji's time control technique. Staring down his paralyzed opponent, he gears up for another massive strike. Reiji then lands a brutal blow right on the elite boss's core. Watching this totally confused, our guy wonders if that light ring is his brother's power, before quickly deciding that can't be it. Attempting another strike, the monster misses as the genius dodges with pure agility, ducking right under it. And this is where it gets good. It finally clicks for Tendo, realizing all that crazy power comes straight from his brother's eye. Reiji manages to land another clean hit, clashing his energy blade right against the enemy's armor. Seeing his brother put in work, our young guy finally understands the situation, calling out that it's all in Reiji's eye. He's absolutely certain his brother is pulling off some crazy trick with that glowing eye. The fierce clash between the two of them just keeps going. Spectating the whole thing, our boy keeps wondering about the secret behind that broken skill. Meanwhile, the system interface pops up Reiji's status, showing his lifespan sitting at 156 years. He watches helplessly as his brother's remaining time keeps dropping lower and lower. Terrified, he realizes the countdown isn't stopping, slipping straight down to 155 years. On the flip side, Reiji keeps a dead serious look, putting all his focus into the fight. Then our young guy connects the dots and gets hit with a heavy thought, wondering if that eye burns through his brother's lifespan every single time he uses it. Pushing forward with perfect precision, Reiji manages to land another flawless hit on the elite boss. Catching a glimpse, Reiji notices something, genuinely surprised by the outcome of his last strike. He actually did it. The core right on the monster's chest is finally starting to crack, knocked back by the recoil of the blast. He thinks he finally made some progress, but there's a huge catch. Realizing that with only one arm left, he just can't pack enough power to deliver the finishing blow. Bouncing back, the creature digs its sharp blades into the floor, gearing up for another strike. The elite boss then lashes out with its tentacle, barely grazing Reiji. The hit forces him to grit his teeth while trying to block the heavy impact. Watching the scene unfold, our main guy screamed his brother's name in pure despair. Completely shocked, he realizes Reiji is getting pushed back, and if this keeps up, he might actually drop dead right there. Gripping his weapon's handle, our boy decides to make a move, thinking he has to do something to help, but the doubt eats him alive, making him wonder if a nobody like him can actually make a difference. Sword in hand, he feels like complete trash, questioning what he could even do to flip the script. Out of nowhere, Reiji yells out, asking how long he's gonna just stand there like a scarecrow. The genius keeps snapping, super annoyed by our guy's hesitation right in the middle of the fight. Then he wraps it up, telling our young guy to get lost because he's just getting in the way. Agreeing in his head, he figures his brother is right about him being just a stain, convinced that a cracked genius like Reiji would never lose. He just keeps putting himself down, reminding himself that Reiji is super strong, unlike him. Making up his mind, he realizes the only thing dead weight like him can do right now is to book it out of there as fast as possible to avoid dragging his brother down. Except while making a run for the exit, something catches his eye. Glancing over his shoulder, he spots Yui knocked out in the middle of the rubble. A system screen pops up, zooming in on her and showing her remaining lifespan is 39 years. Still on the floor, Yui starts moving around and groaning in pain. Our boy is taken aback, realizing she's actually still breathing. But right after that, he turns his head away, totally stunned by what just clicked for him. He suddenly puts together that his brother wasn't just fighting to protect him, but also to keep his coworker out of the crossfire. That's where it gets crazy. He realizes Reiji was defending everyone, even while fighting in that messed up state. Turning around, Reiji yells at him to keep moving and just get out of there. The kid feels entirely powerless, convinced there isn't a single thing he can do. Repeating that harsh truth in his head, he spins around and sprints away from the battle. Out of the corner of his eye, Raji watches his brother make a run for it. Seizing the opening, the creature strikes with its tentacle, but he manages to dodge at the very last second. The beast thrashes around, still locked down by the glowing energy rings from the genius's skill. Stepping up again, Raji charges forward, landing a heavy blow dead center on the creature's core. That heavy impact makes the red core on the enemy's chest crack even further. Locking eyes, the two stare each other down, with Raji fully determined to end this once and for all. Except the monster lashes back in a rage, unleashing multiple tentacles from its body. Those things fly at breakneck speed straight toward Raji. Raji tries to block as many as he possibly can. Even so, a few slip past his defense, making him grit his teeth as he prepares to take the hits head on. Flashing back out of nowhere, the scene shows him as a kid, getting pushed by some boys to hit a beehive, hyping him up that today is the day. But little Raji, only 7 years old, is shaking with fear and tells them he just can't do it. The other kids keep pressuring him to hurry up, saying all he has to do is smack the hive and run for it. Yet the rest of the boys around them start mocking him, laughing and calling Raji a crybaby. Right then, the punks jump in shock when something suddenly smacks them out of nowhere. It's our main guy stepping up in front of them and asking if they were messing with his little brother. Our mini Tendo, also 7 years old, smirks with total confidence and tells them they've got a lot of nerve. Recognizing him, one of the kids asks what he just threw at them, noticing a sweet smell. Our boy just turns around and answers with a single word, honey. Dropping their jaws, they realize that if that's true, they're in massive trouble. And no one saw that coming. Tendo casually chucks a whole honey balloon straight at the beehive. Looking up, the other boys are completely terrified by the kid's sheer audacity. A massive swarm dives right at the bullies, sending them into full panic mode as they scream for everyone to run. One of the brats curses out loud while running for his life from the stings. From a safe distance, our boy laughs at the chaos, while an awestruck Raji calls him Big Brother. Flashing a determined look, our main guy turns around and promises to always protect Raji, no matter what. Little Raji just stares back, absolutely amazed by his brother's badass attitude. Snapping back to the present, Raji remembers how blinding his brother's back was, always hoping he could catch up to him someday. Back in the fight, he parries another strike from the creature, but the beast's tentacle suddenly splits into multiple parts, surrounding him and catching him off guard with a new attack pattern. Throwing himself backward, the genius narrowly dodges one of the monster's tentacle whips. Right then, his Chronostasis eye glows bright, firing up his time control power. With the skill active, he gets ready to handle the swarm of shadowy tentacles boxing him in. The sheer speed of the attack is still too much, with one strike aiming right for his blind spot. Clicking his tongue in annoyance, he admits he didn't want to rely too much on the Chronostasis eye, but holding back isn't an option anymore. The system interface flares up again, showing his right arm under repair and his lifespan sitting at 153 years. And that timer just keeps dropping fast, ticking down to 152 years. Doing the math, he knows he still has some life left, but a fatal hit would cost over 100 years to fix, meaning he'd lose at this pace. He looks at the beast's cracked core, figuring one more solid hit will shatter it, though landing that final strike is the real problem. Lunging forward, the creature unleashes every single tentacle all at once, but Raji stands his ground, blocking the barrage of strikes. Glowing red eye fully flared, he pushes himself to the limit just to hold on. Keeping up the defense, he blocks the elite boss's hits as best as he can. He doesn't lose focus for a single second. Realizing his limit, he notices he can freeze 6 of those tentacles using the Chronostasis eye's power. With an analytical gaze, he quickly does the math and realizes that leaves just one single tentacle free to attack. Getting in the stance, he knows his only shot at winning is gonna last a split second. While the other tails are locked in time, he glares at the beast, gearing up to make his move. Meanwhile, that cracked core on the creature's chest pulses with some intense energy. Rocking a red eye shining with pure determination, Raji mentally shouts that he's ending this right here, right now. Then another flashback drops his true motivation, showing how much he couldn't stand being so weak. Recalling the heavy trauma of letting his family get wiped out, and being the only one left living in peace, a guilt that completely haunted him. He felt completely pathetic, always needing to be protected by everyone else, which is exactly why he pushed himself to level up and get stronger. The scene shows him training non-stop as a kid, smashing a wooden dummy to pieces with all his rage, grinding insanely hard so that he would never, ever need someone else to step up and protect him. Locking his eyes onto the enemy, he gets ready for the final strike. He then dashes right through the frozen tentacles, heading straight for the beast. Out of nowhere, one of those whips lands a clean hit right on his arm, making his sword slip right out of his grip. He stomps his foot hard into the ground. Propelling himself forward, he flashes a look of pure rage. That last attacking tentacle is finally frozen in time by his power. Meanwhile, the blade is still falling through the air. Going all out, the genius throws himself straight at the creature. The system interface flares up, locking its crosshairs dead center on the beast's core, while his right arm is still fixing itself. And this is where it gets good. A system screen pops up, announcing that Reiji's right arm is fully restored. With his limb back in action, Reiji catches his sword with a newly healed arm, ready to unleash his full power, launching himself forward with everything he has. His eye is glowing and his body is beaten up, but he's fully locked in. And muttering out a furious battle cry, he claims the monster's life as his own. But suddenly he stops in midair, a look of complete shock on his face. One of those tentacles pierces right through his arm, leaving him confused, since he thought he had frozen them all. Then it finally hits him, realizing the creature had an extra one hidden underground. Glowing golden rings of his own skill wrap around the hidden appendage. That surprise attack lands a direct hit, piercing his arm all the way through. Wide-eyed in pure shock and pain, the Chronostasis skill tries stopping the hit but fails. Gritting his teeth from the excruciating pain, his arm gets ripped off all over again. Reiji crashes hard onto the ground, completely unable to react to that devastating strike. Down and severely injured, he just groans from the pain. Yet even in his busted state, his red eye glows bright, telling himself it's not over yet. A system screen flashes a low visibility warning, leaving him stuck in place. Groaning, he tries to force himself up, his face covered in crimson. The genius quickly realizes the red stains are blocking his vision, messing with his eye's power. Right after that, another warning screen pops up, dropping the bad news that Chronostasis is temporarily disabled. Making things worse, the system throws more alerts, stating both his arms are gone and his vitals are dropping fast. This brutal scene shows Reiji sprawled and dismembered on the floor, his severed hand and energy blade tossed nearby. Despite being down and battered, Reiji stands firm in his mind that he's not done fighting. Suddenly, the system locks onto the monster, detecting a massive heat signature coming off it. That core on the enemy's chest glows with an intense purple energy, signaling a heavy attack is loading up. Meanwhile, Reiji stays slumped in a crimson pool, reflecting on how he just wanted to get stronger. Face planted against the ground, he looks like he has zero strength left. Flashing back, he remembers that blinding light he saw back in his childhood, meaning his older brother. He slowly opens his eye, letting that exact memory hit him hard. The image of his siblings smiling with pure determination as a kid floods right back into his mind. Except, right after that, our main guy's face pops up again, snapping back to the present, still planted on the floor and covered in red. Reiji spots a figure leaping straight toward the monster, and it's none other than our boy. His eye goes wide in shock as the whole scene unfolds right in front of him. High up in the air, our hero gears up to strike the creature, who clearly spots him coming. Screaming midair, he's fueled by absolute determination. He yells out, thinking that if he chooses to run away again right now. Pushing past the fear, he grips his blade tight, ready to take this beast head on. He'll never be able to move forward in his life ever again. Down below, the creature winds up for a brutal counterattack. Then that sphere on the monster's head flares up with some overwhelming purple energy, firing off a massive energy beam straight at our guy. The sheer speed and power of the blast catches him completely off guard. Trying to block the beam with his weapon, he finds the energy is just way too cracked. That pillar of energy surges upward with insane destructive force, heading right for him. Tendo instantly realizes there's zero chance he can dodge that hit. Rocking a look of pure panic, he has no clue what to do next. And no one saw that coming. Reiji steps right in front of our guy, acting as a human shield and taking the blast head on. Pure confusion completely takes over Tendo's face. Glancing down at his blade, he sees it shattered just from the sheer pressure. Since he was still midair, the kid crashes super hard onto the ground. He lets out a groan, getting thrown back by that brutal impact. Completely shocked, our guy realizes this beast can fire lasers from its mouth and is pretty much capable of anything. Reacting fast, he snaps his gaze right back to the elite boss. The monster starts charging another energy blast, leaving our guy wondering if it's seriously gonna strike again. Right as that moment, Reiji drops out of the sky, landing right on top of him. That devastating purple beam blasts right over their heads. Spotting his brother taking critical damage, our guy screams his name in absolute despair. With Reiji planted on the floor and bleeding out, he keeps yelling, while the monster just watches from a distance. The creature's eyes glow with this sinister energy, staring down the two brothers without flinching. Dropping to his knees, our boy screams out, completely failing to understand why Reiji took the hit. His eyes go wide in pure shock as the brutal reality of what just went down finally sets in. Locking onto that fatal wound on his brother's body, he yells out desperately, trying to keep him awake. Right after that, he grabs him by the shoulders, panicking as he asks if Reiji can still hear him. Drowning in absolute despair, our main guy just keeps on screaming. A system screen flashes Reiji's life counter at 57 years, pushing our boy to beg him to stay alive. But the life balance starts nosediving drastically, making our kid realize his brother's time is seriously running out. He keeps begging his brother not to fade away right there in his arms. Barely clinging to life and covered in crimson, Reiji mutters that he still refuses to accept this. Our boy gets completely confused, having zero idea what his brother is talking about. Reiji keeps talking, mentioning how back when they were kids, our guy had this crazy blind confidence and dragged him everywhere with zero worries. Going on, he points out that ever since that one dark day, our kid just completely fell apart on his own. Face completely stained red, Reiji yells out that he will never accept that version of him. The young dude sits there in total shock, totally speechless after hearing all that. Lowering his head, he stares at his brother's broken body, feeling completely wrecked. Reiji orders our boy to face the future, to never stop and always keep moving forward. Hearing those words, Tendo's eyes go wide. Then, Reiji screams at him to keep fighting until the absolute final moment of his life. A single tear rolls down our kid's face as he takes it all in silently. Reiji keeps going, reminding him that back in the day, our hero always looked ahead, no matter what got in his way, and that by the end of it all, he'd always laugh like an idiot. Somehow, he always managed to pull off a win. Wrapping it up, he says that guy was exactly who our boy used to be. At that moment, our guy's injured eye starts glitching out, completely distorting his vision. Suddenly, he grabs his face, screaming in pure agony and saying his left eye feels like it's burning. And that's where it gets crazier. System screen spawns out of nowhere, announcing the transfer of the Regulus weapon has started. Completely confused, he wonders what the heck this transfer is and what a Regulus weapon even does. Laying on the ground, Reiji tells him that if he needs power to reach his goal, he can have it. Slowly, the genius's glowing eye starts shutting down as all his power gets passed over. A bright red light bursts right out of our boy's eye, leaving him entirely in disbelief. Flashing on the screen, a system loading bar had 17%. In total panic, our hero screams Reiji's name, begging him to stop the process. Stuck on the floor, the genius thinks about how it doesn't matter how much you regret the past. Meanwhile, the system's loading bar spikes straight to 52%. Our boy keeps begging, screaming at his brother not to go through with it. Reiji wraps up his thought, claiming that no matter how messed up the world is, he shouldn't lose. Hearing this, our guy literally can't even speak. With his eyes looking up, Reiji adds that it's all because he's his older brother, the one and only person he always looked up to. Just like that, the system interface officially announces the transfer is 100% complete. Wasting no time, the creature charges up its final attack, aiming dead center right at them. Those glowing golden rings from the Chronostasis skill completely start fading away. Sparks fly as the beast's mouth glows with an intense purple light, charging up some absolutely absurd power. And then, it winds up to launch its full momentum forward. The elite boss charges straight at our boy, who's still on the floor, rocking a dead serious look and pure rage in his eyes. And that's where it gets crazy. Our guy's eye glows bright red, and the system boots up, locking in the #1 Regulus weapon, code Chronostasis. The skill panel breaks it down, saying the power freezes time for any target caught right in his line of sight. Except the drawback is absolutely brutal, burning through 30 days of his lifespan for every single second it's active. Over in the rubble, a body is sprawled on the ground with a sword tossed right next to it. Waking up right in the middle of the wreckage, Yui groans from the pain. Forcing herself to stand up, she's still dizzy from the elite boss's massive strike. Holding her head, it hits her that she was completely knocked out for a second. Suddenly, her eyes go wide the moment she remembers exactly what was going down. Looking dead ahead, she spots the beast rushing straight at the two brothers. The creature is fully geared up to finish exactly what it started, closing the distance insanely fast on both of them, leaving them totally vulnerable on the floor. The camera pans over to our boy, huddled up right next to Reiji's body. Snapping back to reality, Yui sprints toward them while screaming Captain Mogami's name. Her eyes instantly widen, locking onto something super specific. Out of nowhere, a sword gets launched with massive force straight at the creature. Spotting the blade flying in, the monster is caught off guard when it suddenly freezes mid-air thanks to the Chronostasis power. Completely blindsided with zero room to dodge, the strike lands a perfect hit, sinking dead center right into the enemy's core. Taking that heavy impact, the red crystal on the beast's chest completely cracks and shatters. Watching it happen, our hero, hands totally stained in crimson, mentions he had been wondering about one thing. It finally clicked for him that whenever Reiji went in for a strike, he always let time flow normally first. Realizing that objects frozen in time literally can't break, leaving only one logical explanation. With his eye glowing bright red, our guy screams that no matter how tanky the monster is, there's zero reason it can't be smashed. Pushing forward, he goes all out straight at the enemy. Our boy yells out that this beast has been having way too much fun. Gripping the blade even harder, our hero screams that the monster's time, fueling his strike with the Chronostasis eye glowing in pure energy. And then he just completely roars, declaring that the fight ends right here. The brutal hit completely shatters the creature's core into a million pieces. Meanwhile, the massive beast gets blasted backward by the raw force of the strike, covered in crackling energy. Thrashing around, the creature screams in pure agony. A massive pillar of blue light completely swallows the beast whole. Except, back on the ground, Reiji's body starts breaking down into glowing particles. The process just keeps going, with him slowly fading away into thin air, rocking a faint smile right at the end. At the exact same time, the elite boss is fully consumed by the blue energy crashing down, giving the enemy a furious glare. Our guy isn't holding anything back. Both of them crash down super hard onto the pavement. Pushing his blade even deeper, our boy forces it straight against the creature, throwing himself backward to create some distance. The heavy strike completely speeds up the creature's destruction, wrapping up with a massive, blinding blast of white and blue light, shooting right out of the core. Packing insane force, the shockwave violently throws our guy backward. Sprawled on the floor, he stares dead ahead, completely wiped out and in total shock. One last wave of blue lightning sweeps across the whole hall, totally clearing the zone, leaving nothing but pure silence and a wrecked room behind as the energy slowly fades out. Once the dust finally settles, our hero just stands there, staring out at the empty hall. Suddenly, his eyes shoot wide open the second he remembers Reiji. Scrambling fast, he sprints off in total desperation with his sword still in hand. Rocking a completely panicked look, he screams out Reiji's name. Frantically searching the room, he keeps calling out for his brother. Stopping dead in his tracks right where Reiji was, he watches the remaining glowing particles and just whispers his name. Taking a super hesitant step forward, he moves toward the glowing remains. Totally stunned, he can barely even let out a whisper of disbelief. Dropping to his knees, he stares at what's left of his brother, now just a pool of crimson and light on the broken floor. With tears running down his face and his voice totally cracking, he calls out to Reiji one last time in pure despair. Still on his knees, our boy grips his sword tight, completely wrecked by the loss. Watching from a safe distance, Yui silently takes in the tragic scene. Right then, Tendo's status screen pops up, clocking his lifespan at 35 years, but locking in his new gear, the Regulus weapon, Chronostasis, sitting at proficiency level 1. Flashing back to that brutal moment, the purple energy beam completely pierces Reiji's body, sending crimsons flashing everywhere. Our guy is forced to watch the whole fatal hit go down. Face totally stained in red, Reiji squeezes his eyes shut, taking the full brunt of that fatal blast. Forced to watch, our boy screams his brother's name in absolute panic. But suddenly, he shoots up in bed, breathing heavy and realizing it was all just a nightmare. The scene shifts over to a super clean room, with daylight pouring straight through the window. Staring out at the view, our guy tries to piece together exactly where he is. Getting out of bed, he's feeling totally dazed and confused. His eyes go wide, revealing one of them is now bright red as his brain finally processes everything. Glancing at the bedside clock, it hits him that it's already morning. Next up, we see him standing in the shower, leaning on the wall and looking seriously shaken up. Rocking an anguished look, his mind just keeps looping back to last night's disaster, trying to pass the whole thing off as a bad dream. A system screen suddenly pops up right in his face. That glowing interface clocks his exact lifespan at 35 years left. Staring right at it, he realizes with pure horror that every single detail was real. Fully dressed, he paces around the living room, completely lost in his own head. Suddenly a memory hits him of Reiji mentioning he'd be home late because of a raid. Flashing back, a younger version of our boy calls out to his brother, just trying to chat. Handing over a lunch he cooked up, Reiji shoots him down super cold. Pushing through the awkwardness, our guy insists, mentioning he packed all his favorite foods. Letting out a heavy sigh, Reiji looks away, and finally caves in, taking the lunch his little brother worked on. Throwing a quick goodbye, he turns his back to head out the door. Left standing there, our boy can only quietly ask him to stay safe out there. Snapping back to the present, the harsh reality completely washes over him. It finally sinks in that Reiji is actually gone for good. But suddenly the doorbell rings, making him whip his head around. His face totally lights up in pure surprise from the sound. Sprinting to the front door, he starts calling out for his brother, hoping it's some kind of miracle. Throwing the door wide open in a panic, he's still rocking a towel around his neck. Except it's just Yui standing standing there, awkwardly saying it's been a minute since they last saw each other. Completely lost, our guy flat out asks why she's at his place. Holding her ground, she just gives him this super serious stare. And no one saw that coming. Her stomach just loudly growls, completely exposing how starving she is. Turning bright red, she gets incredibly embarrassed by the whole thing. Trying to save the mood, he plates up some umaris, mentioning he just tossed together some leftovers. Still totally flushed, she gets all defensive, acting like she didn't even want it. Digging in at the table, she starts yapping at breakneck speed about not wasting his kindness, leaving our boy totally stunned by how fast she talks. Taking her first bite of the food, she rocks this highly focused look. Watching the whole thing go down in total silence, our guy zeroes his eyes on one specific detail, locking his vision straight onto the official emblem of the military guild. Close. Then a flashback shows what went down 8.5 hours earlier, right after they escaped the dungeon. All battered up, our boy gets slammed hard onto the ground by one of the soldiers. Right after that, a bunch of agents swarm and pin him down, radioing in that they bagged him. The squad looks completely shocked, with one guy yelling that our hero has the Chronostasis eye. Pinned down, one of the men accuses him of taking out Captain Mogami, but Officer Misasaki orders him to back off. Walking up with Reiji's crimson-stained cloak, she reveals that our guy is actually the captain's older brother. Stepping right in front of him, Yui shields the kid from the rest of the squad. She then yells out, warning them she won't let them treat him like a criminal. One soldier argues the orders are to take the survivor into custody, but Yui takes the heat and tells them to send him home to rest. Another agent asks about the captain, and cutting him off, she states that Captain Mogami didn't make it out. Her expression is full of pure sorrow, looking like she's about to cry. Holding up the torn, red-stained cloak, she says there is no captain anymore, and they should know exactly what that means. Hanging their heads low, the other soldiers drop into complete silence. Still pinned to the floor, our boy just quietly watches the whole thing unfold. Yui adds that letting him go is the absolute most they can do for him right now. Snapping back to the present, she finishes her food and thanks him for the meal. Praising the dish, she's surprised he's such a good cook and asks if he makes meals often. Our guy replies that Reishi was always busy, and when two people live together, someone's gotta learn. Listening quietly, Yui wipes her mouth and says she gets it. Resting on a cabinet, a framed photo shows an old happy picture of our boy with his brother. Right then, Yui gets her act together. Introducing herself as Yui Mizusaki from the 1st Ops Unit, she mentions she served right under his younger brother, Captain Reichi. Our boy locks in a serious look and just repeats the keyword she dropped, sklo. Asking if he's heard the name before, Yui explains it's the government agency supervising national conquerors. Officially, the organization is called the Containment of Labyrinths and Oppressive Swarm Elimination, but the nickname sklo comes straight from the initials. Wrapping it up with a smile, she claims they are the sword and shield of the people, everyone's heroes. Staying quiet for a second, our kid watches as Yui turns her face with a super awkward expression. Clapping back, our hero points out that she doesn't believe a single word of that. Cracking a smile, she admits he might look a bit slow, but his instincts are actually razor sharp. He groans that she's got a lot of nerve, but Yui counters that it's a government agency and can't run on ideals alone. But then she reveals that, despite all that, there was one true hero among them. Yui explains Captain Mogami was the absolute strongest national conqueror, and now that Japan's pillar has fallen, a massive shift is inevitably coming. Continuing her thought, she says the person standing right at the center of it all, staring a hole right through him, Yui declares that it's gonna be him, Magami Tendo. But then she reveals that despite all that, there was one true hero among them. Yui explains Captain Mogami was the absolute strongest national conqueror, and now that Japan's pillar has fallen, a massive shift is inevitably coming. Continuing her thought, she says the person standing right at the center of it all, staring a hole right through him, Yui declares that it's gonna be him, Mogami Tendo. Completely stunned, our boy asks why it has to be him. Pointing straight at him, Yui answers that it's all because of his left eye. She breaks down that the Chronostasis eye is no ordinary weapon. Claiming its performance completely outclasses standard gear, she calls it a Regulus weapon, so overpowered it could shake an entire nation on its own. She then states our kid inherited this cracked power directly from his brother in exchange for his life. Wide-eyed, our hero sits there in pure shock, letting out a nervous laugh. He can barely believe what he's hearing. Flashing back to that brutal moment, our guy says Reiji should have been the one to live, wishing his brother had survived instead. Clenching his fist, he slams it hard down on the table. Yui just quietly watches him process the pain. Moving on, she drops another piece of heavy news regarding that humanoid enemy inside the dungeon. And as where it gets crazy, she reveals that the monster is probably still alive. Catching him totally off guard, our guy is completely shaken by the update. He yells out, swearing they had actually managed to kill that beast. Yui explains that whenever you defeat an enemy, your lifespan balance goes up. But as solid proof, she points out his timer hasn't moved an inch, still sitting at exactly 35 years. It hits our kid right then and there that Reiji's sacrifice was all for nothing. Fueled by pure rage, he smacks the table again, totally frustrated. While he drowns in regret, the officer just watches him in silence. Looking him dead in the eye, Yui asks if, knowing all this, he's going to become a national conqueror. Super surprised, our hero snaps back, claiming this has to be some kind of sick joke. Breaking it down, she notes that as a conqueror, he'll naturally dive into dungeons, meaning he might cross paths with that humanoid enemy again. Hearing that, our guy falls quiet, letting the idea completely sink in. Wrapping up her point, Yui adds that next time he might actually get to avenge his brother. Head hanging low, he stays lost in thought for a solid minute. In his head, our kid thinks there's no way he can pull it off, seeing himself as the genius's Stain who always gives up and can't do a thing. Gritting his teeth, he's just incredibly frustrated by his own weakness. Suddenly, Reiji's voice echoes in his mind, screaming at him to look ahead. Remembering his brother's order to never stop moving forward, the memory keeps playing, showing his battered brother telling him to keep walking until his absolute final breath. He remembers that Reiji trusted him with everything. Those heavy words echo, reminding him that it doesn't matter how much he regrets the past, or just how unfair this messed up world can be. And the final memory hits, with his brother begging him not to lose. Finally accepting the weight of it, our hero tells himself his brother trusted him with this, even if he expects absolutely nothing from himself. Rocking a fresh look of pure determination, he turns around, ready to give his answer, locking his eyes on the framed photos sitting on the shelf. And then, he recalls the final words from a completely battered Reiji. The memory wraps up with their happy picture in the phrase, "You're my older brother." With a seriously determined look, our boy thinks he simply can't betray his brother's feelings. Stepping up, he declares he'll do it. He's going to become a national conqueror. Officer Yui just stares at him, taking in his final decision. With his eye gleaming, he adds, he'll do everything Reggie would have done if he were still alive. Watching him closely, Yui says that this time, our hero finishes her sentence, swearing he'll live a life that makes his brother proud. Yui stares back at him with a totally dead serious look. Right after that, she cracks a smile and says, "Alright, then first things first." And just like that, she slaps a pair of handcuffs right onto his wrists. Rocking a smirk and dangling the key, she lets him know he's officially under arrest. Our boy's jaw drops as he holds his hands up, telling her she's gotta be kidding. The scene cuts to a car cruising down an empty highway. Inside the ride, our kid is chilling in the back seat with Yui, while some dude in a suit drives. Groaning, he points out he's not gonna try running away or anything. Holding up his cuffed hands, he begs her to at least take those things off. Yuri just shoots him an absolutely ice-cold glare. She shoots back that it's standard procedure and tells him to deal with it, leaving our guy totally deflated. Asking where they're taking him, the officer says it's straight to Klost HQ, adding he was scheduled to be brought in anyway. Our boy realizes they pretty much just dumped the task on her. Yui asks if he feels played, reminding him this is technically a voluntary interrogation. Super annoyed, he claps back that he literally didn't even have the right to refuse. Right then, the driver, Uno, chimes in and asks if he's totally misreading the situation. The driver explains they can't just leave a regulus weapon user wandering around, so the rule is to bring them in by force the second they're found. Our main guy tenses up, realizing full restraints and heavy security transport wouldn't be weird at all. Then the driver reveals the only reason he's getting off easy is because Yui managed to convince the higher-ups. Barking at him to remember his place, the suit warns he's only getting special treatment for being Captain Mogami's brother. Yui shuts the driver down, saying handling the situation like this was just more convenient for them. Adjusting his glasses, the guy quickly apologizes. Our boy just stares down at the floor, deep in thought. Keeping that serious expression, Yui watches him out of the corner of her eye. She tells him not to sweat it, mentioning that's just how things work. And that's where it gets crazy. An emergency alarm blares through the car, warning that an enemy spawned at the 4th dungeon in the Narima base and defense systems are active. The dashboard screen immediately starts flashing a bright red warning. Going completely wide-eyed, our hero is super shocked by the alert. The scene cuts to a whole pack of monsters gearing up for an attack. Meanwhile, the siren keeps ringing out, repeating that emergency loop. Pointing out the awful timing, Yui has no other choice but to order the driver straight to the base. Agent Uno confirms the order, and the officer yells at him to step on it. With a sharp drift, the ride aggressively tears down the street. Getting tossed to the side from the sharp turn, our boy yells out in panic. Highly annoyed, Yui snaps at him to buckle his seatbelt properly. The kid, still stuck in cuffs, questions what's going down, wondering if Narima is that abandoned zone. Breaking it down, Yui explains that dungeons eventually leak enemies into the real world, which is exactly why the Kloster Guild guards the area 24/7. She then adds that with her and Captain Mogami gone, only rookie conquerors are left to hold the Narima base. Super annoyed, he calls their security an absolute joke, but Yui claps back that they are severely short-staffed right now. Flashing a tense look, she warns that if they don't hurry up, it's going to be game over for those guys. Right as there's a scene cuts to a military chopper flying over this massive concrete wall. Down below, a completely ruined ghost town is shown, sporting a giant hole smashed right through the barrier. Pouring out of that breach, a whole swarm of monsters starts invading the zone. One specific beast charges forward, fully geared up for a fight. Suddenly, a barrage of gunfire rains down on the creature. A whole pack of beasts rushes in at once, kicking off a chaotic battle. Firing back, a few guys in suits unload their rifles straight at the horde. One agent screams they can't hold the line much longer, begging his partner to survive until the national conquerors show up. Yet a split second later, both guys get absolutely bodied by the monster's strike and drop to the floor. Zooming in, the camera highlights the defeated agents sprawled out on the pavement. Then it pans up to reveal the exact beast responsible for the takedown. The car is still tearing through the ruined streets at breakneck speed. Looking out the window, our boy stares at all the wrecked buildings passing by. It finally clicks for him that they're driving right through the Narima evacuation zone. Out of nowhere, the driver rips a crazy sharp turn, jerking the whole ride forward. Tires screeching hard. Yui steps right out of the vehicle and announces they made it, slamming the door wide open with serious force. The officer gets super shocked seeing the heavy concrete walls totally smashed up. Grabbing her binoculars, she scopes out the battlefield to see what's really going down. Through the lenses, she spots a solo conqueror getting completely swarmed by the horde. The guy is trying his best to hold his ground, but he's massively outnumbered. Dropping the binoculars with a worried look, she realizes the beasts are gonna break out of the zone at this pace. She sharply whips her head back toward our hero sitting in the car, asking her straight up. The kid wonders if it's really fine to leave things looking like this. Yui breaks it down, saying the locals were relocated over 10 years ago when the 4th dungeon spawned, so 0 civilians are left. Pushing back, our boy clarifies that's not what he meant, pointing out those fighters are severely short-staffed and need backup. But she just cuts him off, claiming backup isn't necessary. Warning him not to get the wrong idea, she reminds the kid he's still a civilian who needs to evacuate to a safe zone immediately. He just stares back in pure shock, having 0 clue how to respond to that order. Yui strictly warns that civilians using weapons is highly illegal, and his Regulus weapon is no exception, threatening him with heavy guild punishment if he disobeys. Falling completely silent, our young guy tenses up from the heavy threat. She doubles down, reminding him that unlike last time, they are outside the dungeon now, and there's absolutely 0 chance to cover up his actions in the real world. Glaring at him, she questions if he seriously already forgot about all that. Plus, she points out his Chronostasis eye is a high-risk weapon burning 30 days of his lifespan per second, so using it carelessly is a death sentence. Clenching his cuffed fists, our boy feels massively frustrated while she stares him down. The officer then slams the car doors shut, telling Unknown she's leaving the rest in his hands. Getting a quick nod, the agent confirms the order. Our main guy starts panicking, leaning over the seat and screaming for her to wait. Completely ignoring him, Yui powers up her weapon, a sword glowing with intense blue energy. Using that same energy to boost herself, she leaps toward the battlefield at breakneck speed. Midair, her dash leaves this cracked blue energy trail, pretty much looking like a certain speedy hedgehog. Our boy watches in pure shock from the back seat as shockwave debris smacks the car window. Dropping his jaw, he genuinely wonders what kind of overpowered jumping skill that was. That glowing blue street just keeps bouncing between the ruined buildings, clearing a path. Suddenly, the car aggressively floors it, throwing our kid hard against the door. Agent Uno yells at him to sit down, straight up asking what a total amateur like him could even do out there. Wrapping up his rant, the driver shouts that our hero is nothing like Captain Mogami, shutting the kid up completely. He just grits his teeth, telling himself that he really isn't anything like Reishi. Slumped in his seat, the harsh truth hits that nobody knows that fact better than he does. Feeling completely useless in that moment, he suddenly catches a weird noise from outside. The shaking gets heavier and heavier, making him realize things are going south real quick out there. The Despite being dead weight, his gut tells him he still has to do something. Locking his eyes forward, he flashes a seriously determined look. The camera then cuts straight to the street, where a beast is pummeling a guild agent hiding behind a glowing energy shield. That blue barrier just can't handle the raw power, completely shattering under the monster's strike. Sprawled on the pavement, the poor agent is absolutely terrified and too stunned to move. Closing the distance, the creature winds up to deliver the final blow. And this is where it gets good. Our main guy literally throws himself right out of the moving car, tumbling super hard across the rough concrete. Right behind him, the vehicle aggressively skids across the wrecked street. Yelling from the driver's seat, Uno screams out, asking what on earth the kid is trying to pull. Down on the pavement, our boy pushes himself back up, wrists still completely locked in cuffs. Then he just sprints straight into danger, completely ignoring the driver screaming that he's gonna get himself killed. Catching sight of the battlefield up close, his eyes go completely wide. Right up ahead, that beast is just seconds away from wiping out the fallen agent. Clenching his cuffed hands tight, he tells himself he has to step up since he already made his choice. A blinding red light flares up from his pupil as he triggers his Regulus weapon, the Chronostasis eye. In a flash, time completely stops, leaving the monster frozen mid-strike and locked inside a glowing golden ring. Our guy quickly rushes over, totally ignoring the beast suspended right in the air. Reaching her side, he asks if she's alright, but instantly realizes he messed up big time. He stares down at the girl, who's also fully paralyzed by his skill, and freaks out that he accidentally froze her too. Trying to pull her away, he finds out it's impossible, since objects frozen in time are literally locked in place. The kid wonders if he can just turn off the skill on her alone, but gets way too scared of messing things up if he tries. Totally confused, our young hero scrambles his vision around, having zero clue how to fix this. Out of nowhere, he spots this massive object covered up by a thick green net. Taking a closer look, he realizes it's just a huge trash collection net. Getting a bright idea on the spot, he decides that's exactly what he's going to use. With his hands still cuffed together, he grabs hold of the net. Winding up, our hero tosses that giant net right over the monster. His eye flares up intensely again, triggering a double activation of the Chronostasis eye. Instantly, the net freezes in time, completely trapping the beast underneath. Checking out his trap, he figures that should be enough to lock down the creature's movements. Right after that, he looks around, muttering to himself that he just needs to find one thing now. Then he spots a black object lying on the ground right next to the agent. Scooping it up, our guy recognizes it's the exact same gear Yui was carrying. With a quick click, he presses a button right on the device. Suddenly, a beam of green light shoots straight up, making our boy yell in surprise. Staring at the energy blade, it clicks for him exactly how the weapon works. Standing right in front of the agent, he gets into stance and says he's gonna give it a shot. That red eye glows again as he activates the partial release of Chronostasis. Instantly, the monster starts moving again, completely breaking the freeze. Totally confused, the agent has no clue what's going on, while our hero realizes that things frozen together also unfreeze together. Breathing a massive sigh of relief, he thinks to himself that was way too close. The agent freaks out seeing her weapon in his hand, and our kid quickly apologizes, saying he just borrowed it for a second. Locking in his focus, he tells himself to stay calm and aim carefully. His main target is the monster's core, which is still trapped perfectly under that net. Yelling now, he charges forward with everything he has, the blade's tip glowing bright. Releasing the eye's power, he launches the attack straight at the enemy. That energy strike lands a direct heavy hit on the monster. Gritting his teeth, he puts every last ounce of strength into the blow. The energy blade completely pierces right through the creature. A system panel pops up, confirming the enemy is destroyed and clocking his lifespan at 33 years. Right after that, another notification flashes, letting him know he just gained some extra life. Our boy celebrates the win, and the agent, still on the floor, thanks him, but asks who he even is. Then her eyes lock onto the cuffs around his wrists while he's holding the weapon. Totally shocked, the girl screams out, "Handcuffs?" Panicking hard, our guy tries to explain himself, swearing he's completely innocent and didn't commit any crimes. Catching himself, he remembers Yui's threat that using a weapon would land him straight in a cell. The agent is left completely baffled by this whole bizarre situation. Suddenly, our boy snaps his head forward as someone screams that they broke through. A whole pack of monsters charges down the ruined street while an agent yells they're escaping the evacuation zone. Tensing up, our kid watches those creatures heading straight for them. He figures that if the enemies actually break out of the zone like this, it's gonna be a total disaster. The dark image of civilians getting attacked by these beasts flashes right through his mind. Highly annoyed by the thought, he totally grits his teeth. Flashing a determined look, he jumps up on a wall and swears he's gonna stop them for sure. Locking in, he tells himself to remember the feeling, freeze them one by one, and triggers the Chronostasis eye. His pupil flares up with an intense red glowing energy. Instantly, one of the monsters gets frozen in time, wrapped in a golden ring. With his eyes still shining bright, he gears up for the next target. Right after, he pulls off a double activation, locking down a second beast. Pushing forward, he hits a triple, quad, and penta activation, paralyzing 3 more monsters midair. Our hero glares down at the frozen enemies with a super confident and determined look. Looking down the street, he spots all 5 monsters suspended in their golden rings, celebrating that his plan actually worked. Out of nowhere, Yui dashes through the frozen creatures at breakneck speed, screaming out, "Mogami-kun!" Whipping around, she yells at him to extend the basilard, but our boy is totally confused, having zero clue what she means. Meanwhile, Yui charges another monster that wasn't frozen, landing a heavy hit with her own blade. Yui quickly clarifies, shouting that it's the weapon he's holding, and tells him to flick the switch on the handle. Looking down at his cuffed hands gripping the weapon, our kid wonders if she means this thing. Spotting a tiny switch on the grip, he flips it with a sharp click. Our young guy is completely blown away by what happens next. A massive energy blade suddenly erupts from the handle, making him yell in surprise. Almost falling backward, he realizes she meant the blade extending all along. Yui barks at him to stop standing around and wipe them all out at once. Getting into stance, our boy figures he finally understands how this weapon operates. Rocking a fully determined expression, he winds up for his attack. Yui screams for him to sweep every single enemy away. Spinning his body, our hero unleashes a massive horizontal slash with the glowing blade. That raw energy wave completely tears toward the creatures. At the exact same time, he releases his eye's power, dropping the paralysis on all targets. The strike slices right through the beasts, cutting every single one of them midair. Thinking back to his strategy, the first step is locking the target down with the Chronostasis eye, and then dropping the freeze right at the exact second the attack connects. The result is absolutely devastating, with monster pieces raining down all over the street. Smiling with confidence, he knows they couldn't possibly dodge that, totally admiring the Chronostasis eye's cracked power. He realizes this thing is just insane, and depending on how he uses it, the possibilities are pretty much endless. Right behind him, the very last surviving creature gets impaled by someone. Our boy spins around, completely spooked by the sudden noise. Yui stands right there with an intimidating smile, asking if she didn't order him to evacuate. Fully ready to hear his excuse, totally cornered, our kid stutters hard, scrambling his brain for something to say. Yui screams, asking what on earth he was thinking using the Chronostasis eye like that, and he freezes, realizing he burned way too much lifespan. A blue crosshair flashes right over his face, displaying his current life counter. The system interface reveals his life expectancy just drops straight down to 27 years. Completely shocked, our boy screams out, having zero clue why it nosedives so hard. Yui breaks it down, saying the skill already burns time insanely fast, and he basically spammed it multiple times at once. Then the math finally clicks, making him realize 5 simultaneous activations for 12 seconds burned exactly 1,800 days of his life, leaving him totally terrified. Trying to defend himself, he argues he at least defeated the enemies, but Yui claps back, calling those creatures absolute small fry. She finishes by stating those mobs only get back a few days of life at best, throwing our kid into full-blown panic mode. Absolutely desperate, he drops down and grabs his head, screaming, "Are you kidding me?" Out of nowhere, Yui slices his handcuffs right off with a quick strike from her weapon. Our main guy is left completely baffled by her sudden move. Looking up, he questions her, asking if she's really allowed to do that. She answers that, for better or worse, his interference actually changed the tide of the battle. Flashing a serious look, Yui warns him that if he plans on staying on the battlefield, then he better be ready for what that means, as both of them lock eyes on a brand new threat. Up on a street pole, a much larger and creepier monster starts twitching. The beast completely wraps itself in purple energy and begins transforming. Yui points out that the real main threat is right up there. Spooked, our hero questions what on earth that is, noticing the thing just totally changed forms. The evolved creature reveals this terrifying bat-like face, rocking glowing pink eyes and razor-sharp fangs. One of the agents points up at the sky, yelling for everyone to look. The soldiers realize the beast just evolved, but complain the distance is way too far for a clean shot. Even so, one of the snipers lines up his rifle, while Yui and our boy watch closely from a distance. Seeing the guy taking aim, she tries to stop him, screaming for him to wait. But the agent doesn't listen and just unloads an energy burst straight at the monster. Those shots land dead center, but they don't leave a single scratch on the target. The creature doesn't even flinch, its red eyes glowing intensely. Flashing a look of pure disgust, the beast just mutters, "Annoying." Our boy is left completely shocked, thinking to himself in total disbelief, did that thing just speak? Way up high, the demonic monster spreads its wings and gears up to attack, and no one saw that coming. Razor-sharp spikes sprout all over the creature's body. Our hero gets totally spooked seeing those spikes pop out. Wasting zero time, the beast fires those sharp projectiles straight at the grounded agents, except it totally looks like it missed every single shot. Flashing a cocky smile, the agent mocks the beast, asking where on earth it was even aiming. But right after that, one of those spikes glows bright red. The projectile violently explodes, blasting the agent completely away. Our kid gets completely shocked by the sheer force of that blast. Without a second thought, he sprints straight toward the fallen agent, screaming his name. Shaking the guy planted on the pavement, he begs him to hold on. The man can only let out a painful groan in response. Then he quickly triggers his system vision. A panel pops up right in front of him, clocking the officer's remaining lifespan at 27 years. He finally calms down, super relieved to know the guy still has some time left on the clock. Out of nowhere, a sinister voice mocks their persistence, making our boy tense straight up. The beast states that if they really are bugs, they should drop like bugs. Right after, our hero's status screen pops up, revealing his new standard weapon called Basilar and that his Chronostasis skill completely leveled up. And if you want the next part, make sure to drop a like so I know you guys want more.